Good afternoon, everyone. This is Guy Evans. Thanks for joining me today on this webinar. I am a fifth generation uh, Chelan resident and practiced as a realtor for 6 years, first as a lookout and now at Coldwell Banker. And in the last 2 years, I have helped 15 clients sell their homes. And in earlier careers, did some video production and also some professional photography. And I love to work with people selling their homes. So this webinar entitled 3 Steps to Take to Sell Your Lake Chelan Home at Top Dollar is near and dear to my heart in terms of topics. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We are going to focus today on what I call the 3 Ps that lead to home sale. As you see there, we have pricing, we have presentation, how your home looks, and we have promotion, how you convey your home's presence out to the larger world and the buyer that will eventually buy it. All three of these need to come together in a way and a timing fashion to build maximum anticipation and interest in your home, and that leads to a successful home sale. So we're going to really quickly but in depth unpack each of those 3 Ps. First of all, let's take a look at pricing. We're going to look overall right now at the Lake Chelan market, which for its size is probably one of the most diverse real estate markets in the Northwest. As you can imagine, the highest value is in an area, and this is just a very approximate sketch that I'm showing you here in red, that I call an area that's the lake effect. And I like lake effect. It's a bit of a play on a term that was used historically in agriculture, that being the effect that the lake had on creating these really beautiful, typey, red, delicious apples that Lake Chelan was famous for so many years. And the same lake effect works its magic in real estate. Basically, if you can see, touch, or walk to the lake, you are in what I call the lake effect market. And as you know, these are prices for properties that are largely influenced by the Seattle market. People coming here, purchasing homes as primary residence, secondary residence, vacation rental, and as we've seen in recent years, quite a bit of appreciation in that market. Secondarily, we have areas in blue, and again, there's plenty of other areas on this map I could have drawn in, but it's just for illustrations, that would be called the non-lake market. These are areas where you maybe can't see the lake, or you don't have lake access, or you can't easily walk to the lake. And by and large, what we see there is that prices are somewhat capped by the economics of people that live and work in the Chelan Valley. They're not as desired by these people coming from the west side. And so essentially the buyer base has whatever we have as an income source here in North Central Washington. And as we know, local salaries are certainly not on what they are, certainly are not what they are in the Seattle area. And so as a result, you're going to find that prices can be capped by those local economics. Let's talk a little bit more about each of these markets, and then I'll offer some examples. First of all, lake effect. As I mentioned, does it have a lake view, lake access, or can you walk to the lake? Can you do short-term rentals? That's a big one that a lot of people are looking for that are coming from the Seattle market. And then lastly, how updated is the home? Is the bathroom updated? Is the kitchen updated, as you can see in this image here on the screen? If so, that is going to be highly valued by this market. I say, as you can see there, turnkey is king. People with significant sources of capital come in and they just love the idea that they don't have to remodel and they can just buy the home and start enjoying it today. So turnkey is definitely king in the lake effect market. When you get into the non-lake market, as mentioned, it doesn't have a lake view, it's perhaps not in a high demand downtown area, and I'll speak more about that in just a bit. And as we see it, there's sort of this dead zone that happens as you crest 400,000. And as I say, appropriate pricing is the king in this market. If you get over that 400K number and do the math on what it would take in terms of income to support a mortgage, you realize, wow, there's just not that many salaries that offer that type of income stream. And so I'm always cautious in counseling sellers that if you're in this non-lake market, recognize there are some limitations to what you can appreciate in terms of a price for your home. So let's take a look at some examples here. So this is not a test, but it'll be a bit of a imaginative exercise. So on the left here, we have a beautiful image of a Spader Bay condo that I sold this spring. 810 square feet, $480,000, if you can believe it. So clearly, lake effect is in effect there. It's literally a stone's throw from that beautiful beach, and just has all of the attributes that someone that wants to vacation on the water has. So not a lot of surprise there. But let's turn our attention now to this picture in the upper right. This is a home in Lake Chelan Hills, which does enjoy waterfront access, as you may know. And from the picture, it looks like, wow, nice home. And it turns out it's almost 3,000 square feet, but does not have a preserved lake view. So as you get in there, yes, there's a lake view now, but someone could build in front of this home. And so the challenge that we had in trying to sell this home was, even though on a per square foot basis, 425,000 was a real good buy for 2,900 square feet, there just wasn't anyone locally that was wanting to take that step to that number. And again, it's kind of in that dead zone. We dropped it down to 409 and still struggled to find a buyer. Finally, the owners pulled it off the market. So that's a good example of, even if you think you're in a lake effect area, to really think twice and say, well, do I have all the attributes that would put me in that pricing market? And then on the flip side, here's this beautiful home that sold recently downtown over near Cedar Street. And you would think to yourself, well, can't see the lake from here, can't really get to the lake aside from just walking to the park, which takes 5 to 8 minutes. And so maybe that's a non-lake market. Well, priced at $315, and it sold at $335 with competing offers in a matter of days, with a buyer from Seattle that wants to retire here. So clearly the lake effect is starting to creep into downtown Chelan, and we're starting to see prices like this, $335,000 for a home built in the 40s, 1,620 square feet, which is significant. Now, this home was turnkey. The owners had done a great job on the inside of it, and it was ready to go. So in that regard, the turnkey is king rule was satisfied. So those are some examples of these two types of markets. And step number one for this webinar, to maximize the highest value for your home in its sale, is to know which market you are in. Are you in this market that's called the lake effect? Can you see the lake? Can you walk to the lake? Can you get to the lake easily? Or is your home in a non-lake market environment? And it's really critical to know that and to make sure you understand, your pricing is calibrated appropriately. Let's turn now to presentation. And this really has to do with how your home looks. This is a quote that we pulled off the internet from the Real Estate Staging Association, that homes staged before listing receive an offer in just 23 days on average, which is 90% faster than homes staged after a listing. And, it's obviously biased data. It's coming from the Staging Association, but any realtor will tell you that this is true. The better the home looks, the quicker it's going to sell. And so we're going to talk about things that you can do to really get your home ready and presented right so that it does hit the market with maximum appeal. And I like to think about this in the context of creating a model home. Model homes, as you may have walked through a few of them in the past, are known for just their cleanliness, the fact that they're clutter-free, and the fact that everything is cohesive. And so here we have those three examples given in a home that I currently have listed up at the Lookout. This home is spotless. This home is certainly clutter-free, and this home is very cohesive in its colors and its design. And that really is, what you're trying to create from start to finish, or from the curb to the back door, as I like to say. You want that whole experience to just make sense to the potential buyer. Now, this is a brand new home, relatively speaking. What about the rest of us, right? Like, great, I get it, Guy. My home's not going to look like that. I've been living in it for 20 years. Just give me some flexibility here. So let's look at some more down-to-earth examples. So here on the left is a manufactured home that's pending, that we're selling, and is going to close shortly. And I offer it up as an example of cleanliness. When I first walked in, there was no carpet on the floor. The owners had pulled the carpet, and they said, "What do you think? Can we sell it like this with just plywood?" And I said, "Well, why don't we get some flooring down? It's going to look a lot better." And so they had already painted it, as you can see, and they put fresh flooring down. And that's not to say that everyone needs to do a full repaint and do new flooring throughout, but it is to say that those sorts of investments go a long ways to really priming your home and getting it ready for a strong sale. And so I'm always encouraging buyers, or sellers rather, to consider investing a little bit of money in your home on the front end to create that clean environment. Next up in the top right, I say clutter-free, ? This is a home that we sold last year, and this arguably could have been cleaned up a little bit more. Now, this is the gentleman's desk. He's sitting down to work there during the day as his home office, and so clearly he needs to have things as he likes them. But as someone once said, the minute you list your home, it's really not yours anymore. So it's good as a seller to imagine yourself giving up a little bit of your rights in favor of the buyer's view as they come through the front door. So I would have probably encouraged him to maybe consolidate his pens down to one coffee mug. You can put the check stamper in the drawer. Probably 2/3 of this could have been cleaned off. Nice clean aesthetic in terms of the desk itself. Not a lot of bills and other things sitting there, but in general could have been done a little bit more. And then lastly, a home we sold last year in Chelan Hills. Beautiful home, which was very cohesive just by its nature. But the owner went ahead and set out some place settings, as you can see here, for the photographs, and also put them out when buyers were coming through, just to help a buyer imagine what they may see or imagine themselves in the home. And you can see the colors are very complementary with both the cabinets as well as the seats there. The one thing that I might have suggested was to pull these appliances off in the interest of having a clutter-free environment, but they enjoyed coffee every morning, so got to keep your sellers happy as well. So in summary, step number 2 is really to view your home as a model home and ask yourself, what can I do to make it as clean as possible, to make it as clutter-free as possible, and to make it as cohesive as possible. Now, lastly, we've been talking about the insides of homes, but obviously everything that I just said applies to the outside as well. And so that may involve a refresh of your landscaping. That certainly would mean having some flowers outside in pots potentially, so that when that buyer comes in, they're seeing some color, and generally just keeping the exterior neat and free of cobwebs and that type of thing. And finally, promotion. And this is something that we have a lot of fun with on our team. Promotion is critical because, as you can see, online appeal is really what we're trying to maximize. Buyers are 40% more likely to tour a home in person if they've been able to preview photos online. They say that online is the new curb. It used to be that you talk a lot about curb appeal as you drive up, and that's certainly important. We just talked about that on the previous point. But even as a precursor to that, now you have to have online appeal. And so this is really everything you can do to make your home just zing with beauty out there in the internet. A couple more stats. Looking online for properties is the first step, taken by 57% of buyers last year. And then get this, 99% of millennials cited using the internet in their home search. Not really a surprise for that demographic, but helpful to remember as we think of marketing a property. And all of this is from the National Association of Realtors. So what I want to do next is really share some examples with you of forms of media that you can put on a checklist and utilize to promote your home, or ask your realtor to make sure that they're utilizing it to promote your home. And it goes without saying almost sometimes that you want to make your home look as beautiful as it possibly can out there. It's like getting a kiddo ready for their first dance. You want to help them look as good as they can. And so it's always surprising for me that many homes get presented to the internet with images that are, really not up to what I think the home deserves. Taken with a smartphone, taken with a nice little portable camera, that can work in a fire sale, but most times you really want to be thoughtful and present photos and video that is very compelling. So here's some examples of that. First of all, this large photo here of a home that I currently have listed up at the Lookout is an example of aerial photography. So that's just a non-negotiable in my mind today, is aerial photography needs to be part of promoting your home. Secondly, and foundationally, is professional home photography. And you know that this is done with some editing, because you see this window here, you see how it's blue sky outside and you can actually see out the window. Well, that's only done by taking 2 or more photos with different exposures and then blending those photos together to get this composite that you see there. If you just stood there and took a picture with your camera, just because the light outside is so much brighter than it is in the home, that entire bank of windows is going to just be basically white. And you've seen photos that are taken that way. It's what we all do with our cameras. But if you hire a professional, they do that editing after the fact to get a beautiful photo such as that. And then finally, if you've watched me on Facebook or gone to my website at all, you know that I do a lot with video. Here's a video that I did about this home up in the Lookout, really just showcasing its view, its outdoor entertainment area, and then I used some of those photos that we took from the photo shoot to articulate its layout inside. So video is, again, a key piece, because you can disseminate it out to Facebook and Instagram and other social media platforms and really maximize your exposure. Now, let's spend the next 2 slides and kind of take it up a notch. This is something I do for some higher end properties, such as 386 Porcupine Lane. We actually went ahead and made a standalone website for this property. And so you can see when you go to 386porcupine.com, not only photos, not only prices and info, but also, get this virtual tour. This is called Matterport technology. And, it's pretty fun to play around with. Perhaps you've done this online, but for a buyer, it just offers a great way to preview the home. And you can quite literally just go through the entire home and explore its layout even before you've set a foot on the property itself. So that's a real critical piece for, again, some of those higher end properties. Another thing that I like to do is a blog story. Now this is about a 600 word post where we're articulating what the value is of this property. And it's, in this case, the fact that it's so unique. And from that uniqueness, you're going to get a lot of value. And this is on my website, but it also goes out to my email list. And then we went ahead and printed this onto a really nice glossy and send it out to all of the surrounding homeowners at the lookout. So you really kind of get this layered effect of power when you do this type of media. And you can see here I've put in one of the videos that we put on Instagram at the bottom of this blog post to really drive home the significance of this home to a potential viewer. And so here's this checklist that I would offer up to you: professional home photos, aerial photos, multi-format video, and then if it's a really significant home, 3D walkthrough, custom website, and a blog article. And all of this is done, again, to really just maximize the sense of beauty in the eye of the beholder, which is your potential buyer. If you maximize that sense of beauty, maximizes desire, maximizes the number of eyeballs on the property, and that translates into a high return for you as the seller. And so number 3 is maximize that appeal. And the step I would recommend is that you encourage the realtor that you work with to really follow a media checklist that includes those points that I outlined. So in conclusion, as we wrap this up, I'm encouraging you to consider these 3 P's that are critical to a home sale. When it comes to pricing, you want to know your market. Are you in the lake effect market or the non-lake market? Make sure you have that clear. When it comes to presentation, make your home look like a model home. Spend some money to make it look a little bit better. You may want to not leave it after you've done that, but it's going to go a long ways to really helping the perception of that buyer as he or she crosses the threshold. And finally, maximize your online appeal through all of the various modalities that we just discussed. If you do all of these three things at once and in concert, as I mentioned earlier, your desire is going to be maximized, which equates to both maximum demand and value. That's the goal through all of that. So that's the 3 steps to maximizing value in the sale of your Lake Chelan home. And I do appreciate you coming on the webinar today. I would be open to answering any questions. And I think there's a chat box that you have on your screen, and you can just type in a question if you have any. And I'm working here with my partner and assistant, Jesse Simmons, in my office, and so we'll take a look at those and answer those as they come up. So excuse me 1 second. Okay, so we have a couple of questions here. Number 1 is there a specific season I should list in Chelan to increase my profit? Yes and no. If you've done the steps that I've outlined, and you are in the lake effect market and you can vacation rent, and your home is turnkey and ready to go, and it's priced right, you can list whenever you want. I had a property come to me in December last year, and the owner said, "I'm ready to go, Guy. Let's list it." This was December 10th. And not typically the time you would want to list a property, but we said, okay, let's do it. And it hit the market just after Christmas, and I think we had a pending offer shortly after the new year. Now, that was a property that had a Great Lake view. It had completely updated spaces inside, and it could be vacation rented. And so it really was just at the sweet spot of what that West Side buyer is looking for. If it's a non-lake property, there is value in waiting until the robins are chirping. Something about having just blue sky goes a long ways to improving the presentation of your home. So if you're thinking of selling this coming spring, I would say, start working with a realtor this fall, do your home assessment, which you see on the screen there, which is just kind of the way I approach a home to tie in all 3 of the P's. And then, make a plan to get your home ready to go and photographed in, maybe mid-March to early April, when things start looking halfway decent, and you can hit the market in earnest in the spring. And our second question is, if I'm working with a tight budget, what is the most important thing I should do to help my home show better? That is a good question. Well, I'm assuming if you're working with a tight budget, you've got some time, and so you can do a little sweat equity. I think paint is cheap and goes a long ways. If you're a good painter, don't touch a paintbrush if you're going to leave a bunch of, you know, marks everywhere on trim and everything. So caveat, make sure you're doing a nice job that the future owner is going to appreciate. But that just goes a long ways to really brightening up a space. You know, you typically would want to go with neutral colors, but you can find an accent color that would fit on a particular wall. So that's a way to approach something on a budget. Another example is it doesn't take a lot of money to throw a little bit of color either inside or outside of your house. So as an example, I have a porch swing on my front porch, and my daughter and I were just thinking, hey, you know, we'd like to dress this up a little bit. So we jumped online and found, you know, 4 outdoor pillows, just square, 24-inch square, and 4 covers, outdoor covers that fit kind of the garden theme that we had out there on the front porch. And now when you walk in, you see those pillows on the swing, and it just creates a much more homey environment. So I think that was about $40 or so that we spent on that. And, you know, if you had, you know, a little bit of funds like that kind of throughout the house, just to give it a little bit of life and a little color, it's gonna go a long ways. So we've come to the end. I, again, just appreciate your time here today. If you have friends that weren't able to join us today, we will be making this available in an offline format. So you might just shoot me or Jesse an email, guy@guyevanschelan.com. And I just appreciate your attention. It's an exciting time to be selling homes in Lake Chelan. And I hope that you found this webinar today helpful as you consider your next steps. Have a good day.